just before starting, I want to make sure that we are giving the credit for all the individual researchers and institutions that was involved in bringing all this information. I just wanted to make sure that we all know that this presentation is for only, and any suggested nutrition advice is subjective to the studies and not necessarily apply to the listener. So it's a lot of information, but not necessarily it is applied to you personally. Just make sure that if you have any questions, you can put that on the chat box. I'm not so sure I will be able to answer all of it while I'm giving the presentation. If I didn't, you are more than welcome to contact me directly. Here is my phone number. Here is my email address. You can call me offline, and you're more than welcome to do so. So let's start. The immune system is the basic defense system of the body, protecting us from harmful pathogenics like bacteria, viruses, fungus, and biochemicals and biotoxins that are basically happening every day. And it is a very complex network of cells and protein that basically trying to defend us against infection of any kind due to any resource, and also helping us to kill those harmful invader and let it off the body. Now, food sensitivity and food allergy will be considered as an invader, and as a result, and that is the reason why I put that topic, as a result, give us or put us as a food sensitivity individual in higher risk. And this is the whole topic about, this is the whole topic that I wanted to talk about today. Being on a gluten-free diet by definition makes us being more prone on the immune system. So when we're talking about functional nutrition, most of the people that are coming over my clinic, they will come in with different reasons. They will have maybe low energy, maybe they have chronic stress, maybe they have GI issue, maybe they have food interaction or food reaction that they cannot point out really what's going on with them. They may have hormonal imbalances, maybe they have insomnia, maybe they have overweight. But the bottom line, when we are looking at that, there are enough markers showing in our single blood draw that these are basically our symptoms that the underlying causes for that is inflammation that can lead over time to autoimmunity due to overactivity of the T cells production. And this is what I really want you to kind of like get and understand what's happening with our immune system on gluten-free diet or any other food, and how it's parallel to what's happening right now with the pandemic. So when we're going and diving into understanding the mechanism behind the immune system, I want you for a second to think how people in the past were, or communities in the past, in order for them to protect themselves, they had to build strategies so they can isolate themselves from the outside environment and protect themselves in order to exist. So the castles are like one strategy that in the past communities had been builded, and they kind of like surround themselves with walls and moats and bridges and soldiers and rivers. That was great for them, but that was not enough. They had also spies that had to go outside and check what's happening in the outside world in order to protect themselves, in order or to prepare their community in case something come up. The same with our immunity. Our immune system is basically break down into 3 different layers that goes from top to down. And the major ones are the barrier immunity, the innate immunity, and the acquired immunity. Now, when the first line of defense, which is the barrier immunity, does not serve us well, the second layer will step in and will try to protect us against this particular invader. And if the innate immunity is not working as well, then the acquired immunity must step in. And if the acquired immunity is not doing well, then most cases are that we fail and we are dying, and we will die for that. So we have to think about that as a strategy of 3 layers of protection, that if one layer does not respond well, the second is coming in, the third come in, and if the whole system is not in high alert and capacity to defeat, we are basically, the organism will die. So let's go and dive into the first line of defense, which is the barrier immunity. And it is a natural barrier, and the barriers can start with our tears in our eyes, the skin, but also the intestinal lining and the brain-blood barrier. And these are different strategies that the body is using in order to do detection, destruct, and destroy. And the body will make, or the immune system will choose when and how to make sure that we are kind of like what kind of strategy we are using in order to defeat the invader. So for example, if we're talking about the skin, we can talk about pH level. We have microbes in our skins that if for whatever reason it had been introduced, then the body will respond to that. Tears, for example, are carrying lysosome, which are kind of like a substance that kill bacteria. Sweat, for example, stomach acid. So if food comes into our system and the stomach acid are not there to control that, then obviously this invader can pass the stomach and go down the road and hit the intestinal, and now we can find ourselves not just with food reaction, but we can find ourselves with gut issues or hormonal issue. And when the gut is in stress, then some invaders can cross even the brain-blood barrier. For example, zombulin, which is a byproduct of many inflammatory responses that are happening in our barrier layer. And also, as we all know, inflammation like red, swollen, hot, fever, and pain, that are all part of the strategy that we are as human are using in the first line of defense. But what happens if this line of defense is not enough or cannot take care of the invader, and now the second layer and the third layer gets into the table? So the innate immunity, by definition, it's the system that we have been born with. That's the inside-born inflammation or immunity. This is the mechanism that we all share together as humankind. And there are many soldiers, if you want to call it, or key players that are working parallel in order for us to be protected if, for whatever reason, the first line of defense did not work properly. And the second one is the adaptive immunity, where is a place where there is an invader, and against the invader, the immune system requires to produce antibodies. And I will go a little bit deeper so you'll understand how that happens. So the second line of defense, as I just mentioned, the innate immunity, the key player there are leukocytes, which are proteins, a type of white blood cells, and that's involved many enzymes like natural killer cells, mast cells, eosinophils, monocytes, macrophages, even neutrophils and dendritic cells, and they are there presented. Now, for example, neutrophils and eosinophils and monocytes can be tested in a very regular blood draw, a very simple CBC, but if you know how to read it correctly, we can absolutely interpret it, the strength of your immune system and in what stage you are. Are you in a stage of self-defense first line of defense, or are you in the innate immunity or even the third line of defense? Where are you? And neutrophils, for example, representing 40 or 70% of the white blood cells count, and they will produce in higher volume when we have bacterial infection. And eosinophils, on the other end, will be produced in higher volume when there is a required to kill cell. And these white blood cells require to basically step into the table and kind of like activating the third line of defense. So we can absolutely see in every given moment through blood flow, where are we and what are we fighting and at what level of defense we are at. So we can act and we can be proactive and support that activation. So when we're looking at third line of defense, the key players here are B lymphocyte and T lymphocyte. And they will be produced only if antigen will be, or invader will be presented in the blood. And antigens are proteins that basically will call to stimulate immune response. And if there is no antigen, then the B cells and the T cells will not produce. But I want you to just keep in mind that food particles that have not recognized by our immune system as a legit is also invader. So those of us who are basically sensing food reactivity or food sensitivity or even food allergy, that's for sure, we are in a state that we are already producing B lymphocyte and T lymphocytes because they are considered as antigens. And and what's the difference between the two? Just going to make it very simple and very accurate. So B lymphocytes are basically produced in the bone marrow, and they are basically detecting any free antigen that is recirculated in the fluid material of our body. For example, the blood, for example, the lymph. And when there is a recognition of antigen in the fluid material, then there will be a call to produce antibody. The way of how we are producing antibodies is very interesting. In a second, I'll show you a slide, but the most important here to take here is that the immune system tries to copy the shape of the antigen receptor, and by that binding to receptor and let it off the body. But at the same time, it requires memory production. So if for whatever reason this invader will come again, the immune system can respond in much faster mode. So just keep in mind, naive B cells are kind of like